Hey everyone, welcome to the Wash City Podcast. This is the second podcast. We've definitely made some upgrades since then. Got an overlay from Sean Ivety from sports2.com. He hooked me up. Looks way better than the first iteration. I also went out and got a better camera, so I don't look quite so amateur and terrible. And also I've got a guest this time. So I have Larry, who is also known the infamous TB Pup from Real GM and Sports 2, and I think you know originally back in the day we knew each other from Hoops World. So we go back a long time now. It's been, I think I was writing on there in like 2003, so it's been like 20 years. It's been like 20 years, Larry. Known each other off and on for a long time.
It's been a minute.
Yeah,
it's been a while, and boy, how time flies and how things change just with every iteration of the team that goes by. I mean, that was back that's before Brandon Roy, before Greg Oden, and the draft party that everyone just lost their minds on. One of the most exciting days I've ever had as a Blazer fan was at that draft party. And now that seems so long ago.
We haven't had much to be excited about, honestly. I mean, it kind of sucks, but it's been outside of a few amazing shots from Lillard over the years. Like, we really haven't had any like really great news. So I'm actually really excited about the future. This is the first time I think I've been excited about the Blazers' future in, I don't know. I mean, because you and I were kind of talking about this offline, but I never really thought LaMarcus would stick around, so I wasn't that optimistic about what we were trying to build with LaMarcus and Dame, and like I thought Dame was going to be amazing, but it was like there was just kind of this nebulous future in front of us.
Well, you go back to that time, and like we talked about on off air, there were so many signs that he was not coming back, and it had to do with his family, regardless of what he'd said to Olshey. But you had this exciting young player in Dame coming in, but then you look at how many of those players off of that version of that roster that we got nothing in return for. So the rebuild got a slow start. We got nothing for Aldridge. We got pennies for Batum, nothing for
Rollo,
nothing for Matthews, nothing for Aflalo, who we traded stuff for. It was at that iteration of the Blazers, really all we came out with was Dame,
CJ,
and a couple of
CJ.
Well, that was later, but there wasn't a lot gathered assets that we gathered out of that. Then to move forward to the next era, okay, now Dame's in charge. Let's go and build with the pieces we have. And he didn't have any because we didn't get anything out of the players we'd had. So it was going to take a while to build that back. And then Neil kept trading all our picks. So it has been a while since we've had something to be excited about. Although now, obviously, depending on what happens with Dame and what we get back from that, if you add some solid assets, future picks, nothing's going to equal Dame, certainly in the short term. If you can add some pieces around the young pieces we have now, for the first time in forever, it seems like possibility of a real proper rebuild.
Yeah,
that has the chance to be something back, like when Terry and Clyde and all the young players they had there. Then they traded, they got Buck, and they added into that. But that group of players played together for a while before they were really good. Just like Denver. Denver's been together for how long, those three guys? They added an Aaron Gordon, added a Bruce Brown for a year, and look what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think unless you draft just this insane generational player like LeBron, or you luck out and you get Giannis at whatever he was picked, 14th or 15th or whatever. I can't remember the actual number, but I remember it was after CJ.
I think it was 15.
Yeah, that sounds right. And whether you luck into one of those guys like Jokic, way off in the, I think that he was a second rounder, but
43rd, it was way deep.
Yeah, he was way deep. most of these teams that have been successful did it through the draft. I mean, Golden State entirely built that core through the draft. And Denver built through the draft. So it's like, I don't know what Neil was trying to do. I kind of always assumed that the year after LaMarcus left, he was trying to tank because he just went out and got a bunch of just mediocre players. It just kind of seemed like that was the plan. Like he never thought we would make the playoffs,
And Dame played right through that.
Dame was like, nah, we're going to make it. I'm too good. You're still we're going to just scrape in and figure it out. So yeah, I don't know. It kind of felt like we got like an expansion team. It was almost like all those guys left that summer, and then all we had was Dame and CJ and Myers Leonard, and it was like we've never recovered. We've always been just kind of behind a step or two. Well, so I was gonna ask you though. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, and now it feels like the first time that there's been that real chance of actually doing it properly, organically.
Yeah.
The way a small market team like Portland would do it, like Denver did it, like San Antonio has done it before, and may do it again. I mean, one ping pong ball off we were.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I really wanted Wemby. It felt kind of like a Greg Oden situation, because I remember back when the Oden draft happened, I was sitting there thinking, are we back in a Michael Jordan situation again? Like, I mean, like the parallels were just too much. It was like, okay, you have this center and you have this, absolute killer forward, wing, whatever. And I was like, oh man, I hope we don't screw this up. And, Oden had so much potential and everybody thought he was going to be the next Bill Russell and all that. I look at Wembanyama,
which if he'd been healthy, he would have been very, very, very good. But there were huge medical issues. It's why my friend Jim, who we've talked about, the draft guy, he had me convinced that Durant was the pick. And so there's video of me at that draft party holding up a Durant sign when everyone was Oden.
Wanted Oden,
like, yeah. Out of your mind? And I'm like, hey, I'm not the draft guy. He is, and he's convinced me with good reason why he thinks it. He turned out it was right. He could have, if Oden doesn't get injured, he could have been wrong. But there was reasons why. He goes, I think he's a medical risk. I don't think he's loves basketball like Durant does. And I mean, he had a list of things, and that's the way it turned out. Now, he's been very good with the draft for a long time, so I just default to whatever he thinks almost all the time and just go with it. It saves me time of trying to figure out who might be good.
Well, so what does he think of Scoot? Because I'm curious. Because I've tried to like absorb as much as I possibly can about Scoot. I mean, I was really going through all the Brandon Miller and Scoot videos. I didn't really look into anybody else because I was like, it's going to be one of those guys. I watched a little bit of Amen Thompson, but it was like, nah, it's going to be one of these guys, or we're going to trade the pick. So I'm just curious, what were his thoughts on Scoot?
He really liked him. Was hoping that would be the pick, although he acknowledged that Miller would have been the better fit for Dame.
Yeah, that's totally makes sense.
But if you're taking the best player available, he's like, it's Scoot, and he's struggled a little bit with who Scoot is. You get these comps at every draft.
Yep.
And okay, this player is. You heard a lot of Russell Westbrook,
Derrick Rose,
Derrick Rose, some of those guys. And yet with the way he operates in the mid-range, now obviously he has to grow into that. I see some Chris Paul too.
Yeah.
A little more athletic, not as high of a basketball IQ yet, but he's 19. Just the way he operates in that mid-range and how he sets guys up. I mean, he's always looking to set guys up. It's a natural thing versus Westbrook will drive in, attack the basket, and if he gets, four guys come to him, he'll bail out and throw a pass to somebody who's wide open. And if they make it, he'll get an assist. Scoot does it more naturally. He'll throw guys open, or he doesn't need, for him to be completely denied a shot to give up the ball to get a better shot. He'll create something for someone where they just get a good shot in the flow of the offense, and does that much better, I think, than Westbrook does, better than Rose did. Not to the level of Paul, but give him a couple of years. I can see that in him a little bit.
It's interesting. He did a sit-down interview with Carmelo Anthony yesterday. Did you see that?
I have not. Just got back from the beach.
I haven't seen the whole thing. I saw a clip of it, and Melo asked him. He said, "Hey, it's like such a standard question for a rookie. What are you looking forward to about this about joining the NBA?" It was just a standard question, right, to ask a rookie. And Scoot's answer blew me away. I would never imagine a rookie saying this. He said, "I'm looking forward to leading a group of men." Who says that? Like, who?
Well, and it's tough to get a better answer than that.
Yeah.
This is one of the reasons why, and Jim knew this from day one. I don't know how he found it out, but he's known this since it first happened. He told me about that Steph Curry had taken Scoot
under his wing, yeah,
mentoring him, the business opportunities. He told me about this a long time ago. I'm like, well, that speaks volumes. Steph's not going to attach himself to someone that's an idiot.
Nope.
He is very well respected. He's a professional. He's down there in Silicon Valley where there's tons of money and marketing and things. And for him to go, Scoot, you're my guy. I'm going to pass some things on to you, pay it forward, next generation, whatever. That speaks more than almost anything Scoot can say, although that answer is beyond his years.
Oh, by far, yeah.
In terms of maturity.
Yeah.
That's what you want. I hope that people don't compare him to Dame because he is the next guy.
Yeah.
He is his own. But Dame had that quality too. Dame was pretty quiet early on, grew into being more verbose, or just adamant about certain things. But they had that maturity early on. This is what I want to do. And it wasn't about being an all-star. It wasn't about winning championships, which is what he wants to do. And he critiques himself very hard. A leader of men. At 19?
Who says that?
Excuse me.
Who says that? That's just crazy. I've been, like I said, I've been absorbing things. So there was a really great article in The Ringer about him that I thought it just really goes into his personality. I mean, I'm excited about his talents on the basketball court, but it's his personality and his just insatiable hunger for more information about basketball that just impresses me. He wants to be the best. He doesn't, he's not at all satisfied.
Well, and that's what makes a great player is he's not satisfied. He does have the skill. You can have guys that have tremendous drive, but if they don't have the skill, what happens? You've heard the story of Michael Jordan saying he was the second best player in his family, but the guy didn't grow. His brother, oddly enough, Larry, did not grow. He 5'8", 5'9". That's
can't do it. No,
he didn't have the ability and the skill set to go with that physicality. Jordan had the drive. He had setbacks early. He was critical of his game. And you see that combined with the maturity that Scoot has. It's tough to ask for much more from the guy who is your point guard. It's a natural leadership position. Doesn't mean he has to be the best player. In fact, I think for Portland to go anywhere in the next iteration of their team, it almost needs to be someone else that's the best player. He can be the leader.
Yeah,
no problem with that. But whether that's Sharp or someone that's not here or someone that we trade for, I almost think someone else needs to be maybe the best, most impactful player. And Scoot is the leader. Scoot's the driver. Scoot's in charge. This, but you're the guy that might get us the shot. It's my job to get you that shot because he's just not tall enough. He's
Yeah.
not. If he was 6'6", 6'7", you go,
Yeah, he's the best player. Yeah,
there you go.
there you go.
But it's so incredibly rare. I don't care what the skill set is for someone at that size historically, and we've talked about this on the boards. For someone of that size to lead a team and be the best player, it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It does. There's some guys that have won some MVPs. Steph is the exception, but he's the exception that proves the rule. Tony Parker got an MVP. Was he really the best player? Duncan, he played with Dunk, he played with Kawhi. He had a great series, but it's like the old Boston team. Cornbread Maxwell won a series MVP, Finals MVP one year. Was he the best player? No.
Yeah.
Larry Bird, every day, twice on Sunday, Maxwell got the MVP. So you can have hiccups like that, but it's so rare that someone of that size is your best player.
Yeah.
I think the closest we've ever in our lifetimes was Allen Iverson. Incredible. And he got him to the finals once. That was it.
But they were outclassed. I mean, they just did not have
completely outclassed.
They did not have the team. And that's just it. And that's why, I love Dame. I do. I love him. I love the guy's personality. Although this whole situation that's transpired since he asked out has been eye-opening. But he's been my favorite player, but building around a 6'3" guard that is score first is not, that's not a winning strategy. I mean,
it never has been.
Yeah.
It never has been. And some people will compare, Steph. But Steph is not a ball dominant player.
They don't play alike at all.
No, Steph might be one of the best off-ball players in the NBA. Can he take the ball, create for himself, create for others? Absolutely. But their style of offense and how he gets so many of his points and how it makes their team better is you have to account for him
all the time,
all over the floor.
Yeah, he wears you out. Yeah,
he wears you out. He's moving. Yeah. The defense always has to account for that, leaving Klay Thompson wide open, or Wiggins, on a back cut, or Looney at the bucket. I mean,
when he's insanely efficient too. He's insanely efficient. Like Dame has never been that efficient ever. Not even close. I don't think Dame's ever really come close to 50, 40, 90, and I think Steph's definitely been there a couple times. So it's like,
and it's not to detract from Dame's skills. He's one of the best on-ball pick-and-roll players we've seen.
I mean, ever.
He's ridiculously efficient with that, but that lends itself to being taken out of the play. If you have the ball and you know where the ball is going to be, as a defense, I can go double team that guy.
Yep. Trap him with your best defenders. Yeah, we watched it over and over and over again, and it's Neil just would not.
It's easy to take out, not only because of the style, but because of the size.
Yeah,
you can go double team Nikola Jokic all day long. It turns into a layup line for his team. Why? Because he's 7'1".
Yeah, he's 7'1", and
size matters but you double team Dame, and now. You've got kind of a bailout pass to someone that allows the team to, the defenders to get back on defense, get set. Now everything has to reset. You got to go back to Dame, and by now you're pushing the shot clock. And he had incredible ability to hit tough shots at the end of a shot clock. Speaking of my draft guy, but it never equated to, and historically. Not just Blazers, in the NBA has never equated to team success at a high level.
Yeah.
So for as great as Dame was individually, and we saw it. I've put this number up how many times, and I know we were tanking for parts of the last 2 years, but 137 and 173, that was this team's record in the last 4 years. Which is more than a third of Dame's career here. It's not a small sample size. Now, you're tanking it in a couple of those, so add a few wins each season.
We were bad before we started tanking. I mean, we were not a very good team.
No. And you take out, especially this last year, you take out that hot start, which you have to include the highs and the lows. I get that. But you take out that hot start, and we were at 34% winning percentage with Dame before he shut down. From the time of that 10-3 start to the day Dame shut down, it was some 34% winning percentage for the team. It was not good.
No. Well, so I have some questions for you about Dame, and then really I kind of want to get, I know that Dame has just been overdone. I mean, there's so much out there, but I also feel like people are not being very honest about value and the offers that are on the table. So I wanted to go a little bit into Dame, his value, the offer that may or may not be on the table from the Heat, and then also I want to touch a little bit on Thybulle and Jerami Grant. But I want to get Dame out of the way. We've talked a little bit about Scoot, so I'm curious what you think. Were the Blazers actually working to put talent around him? I mean, I've heard different reports, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Was Joe Cronin lying? Was he just making this all up?
Boy, does this depend on who you ask.
Yeah.
Personally, he was not lying. Did he oversell what he thought he could do? Absolutely. 100%, no question about it. Did he attempt to make moves that would bring players here to put around Dame? He absolutely did. They didn't want Dame gone. And it's above Joe Cronin. Bert Cole did not want Dame gone.
Yeah.
So Joe is the GM, but he operates at the behest of Bert Cole and Jody to an extent. But this is Bert's baby.
Yeah, Bert was there at summer league. He's there at the
right.
workouts. He's there.
And not that he didn't like the draft, because that's how he got brought into this team was Paul, and Paul loved the draft.
Mm-hmm.
But Bert loved Dame. So did they try and make moves? Yes. Did Cronin completely oversell it? Now people will show that video. It's like, well, he lied. What they miss is at the very beginning of that video, what's maybe the second word he uses? Try.
Yeah.
We will try. And then later on says people will be astounded or amazed or whatever verbiage he used when we throw all our chips in, thinking that maybe that wasn't even a good deal for us. But at the very beginning of that, he says try or trying. It's not that anything's guaranteed. Two things happen to hamstring that. One, before the draft ever occurred, we're thinking we're at 5. Last year we were at 6 and got bumped back to 7. We got bumped 1. It was actually more likely we would go back than go forward this year again. Even if we stay at 5, which was almost statistically impossible. But if we stay at 5 or drop back 6, 7, they had every intention of trading that pick.
Yeah.
But when it got to number 3, you have so much more valuable an asset just because of who was in the draft. It was a 3-person draft. You have one of those 3 picks. So now, even if we bumped up to number 4, if we'd gone from 5 just into the top 4 and had been number 4, I still believe we would have traded that pick. But when you got to number 3, not that they weren't open to it, but it was going to take a hammer of a deal to do it, because now you have what most people believe is a generational player, and Charlotte decided not to pick him.
Yeah.
And Charlotte fans are furious.
Yeah. Do you think they would have traded it if Miller had dropped?
Well, so therein lies the Miller would have fit Dame better. So Dame, are you okay with this? Because now we have some size at a forward position. Can you play with that? Or no, we'll go trade it.
Yeah.
I think it would have been much more that discussion versus Scoot fell to us. All right, we can't just give this away. We've got to. So it's not that they didn't try and make moves around other pieces. But once Dame said, I don't want to play with any more 19-year-olds, other teams knew.
Yeah, you lost your leverage.
To trade that pick, we have leverage on you because you're not trading to make your team better. You're trading to make a single player happy.
Yep.
Every GM in the league knew that. So it hurt the draft pick before we ever even knew which pick we were going to get.
And he didn't need to, he didn't need to do that. He could have said, listen, I'm waiting, a lot of I'm putting a lot of pressure on this offseason. I'm expecting a lot of things from the Blazers, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he could have been much more vague about his expectation, but coming out and saying, this was strong words. I have no appetite to play with another 19-year-old rookie. And he's like, if that's their path, that's not my path. I mean, you can't get more strong than without saying, I'm going to demand a trade. He didn't say the words, I'm going to demand a trade, but he said, we're going to have a conversation.
And every single GM in the league is going, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
I have leverage. I have leverage now because they have to do this or.
Yep. And now he's doing the same thing. He's doing the same thing right now.
And now he's doing it with the I only will go to one team. So again, that tampers what they can try and get back because it's not an open market. And I have no problem. Players have lists of teams all the time.
Yeah.
And there's always a preferred one. But he's come out through his agent or through Chris Haynes and then always said, well, I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
It's your agent. Your agent's not doing that without your express permission. He works for you.
Yeah.
He's not.
Same with Haynes. Same with Haynes. Yeah.
Right. You'd fire him in a heartbeat if he went out and did something that you didn't approve of. So that comes across as a little disingenuous. But both of those situations, and I don't blame Dame for asking out.
No, it's past time. It should have happened years ago, right?
It hurt the pick. Now it's hurt what they can get from the trade. But it did not keep Cronin from trying. But I have it on some pretty good authority what some of those were. And Sean Hykins talked about this too. And he's gone out and here's what some of these, the details were. It would have been general manager malpractice to trade that number 3 for OG for what Masai Ujiri wanted.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
There's no way you would do that. So did Cronin not, coffees for closers? Did Cronin close the deal to get Dame that help he wanted? No, because of the asking price. Mm-hmm. Because of the situation they were put in where everyone knew, look what you have to do now. Look at the corner your star pushed you into.
Yeah.
Ha-ha.
They know. They're aware.
We have they were all aware.
Yep.
And so he did try. It didn't work out. I wouldn't call him a liar for that because it didn't work out because calls were made. They made 3 separate runs at OG Anunoby. 3. Yeah. 1 last year, 2 this year.
Yeah, 1 at the draft and then 1 right before Dame asked out, right? So,
well, 1 when Fred VanVleet left.
Yeah.
When Fred VanVleet left, they called again and said, "Hey, need a point guard?"
Yeah.
Sure, if you give us.
Yeah, all these other things.
And then it wasn't much of a discussion.
This is kind of a 2-part question. Then, there's plenty of conspiracy theories, right? Like there's conspiracy theories that Cronin never really intended to build around Dame and has been slowly doing a rebuild, kind of a shadow rebuild behind the scenes, which, there's definitely some evidence of that because the team is so young. Just insanely young.
Well, and incredibly devoid of height. So last year, this came up very early on when the roster construction, Jim and I were talking about where's the beef? Where's the height? Where anyone over 6'8"? There's no one. There was no one anywhere. It's like Nurk's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And if this doesn't go well and you have, and you tank again, which was a possibility when you looked at that roster, you're like, this could go sideways. And they started out well. And everyone was hitting buzzer-beating shots except Dame. He wasn't taking them. Grant hit 1. Hart hit 1. Hart maybe hit 2. There was a couple of game winners in there, buzzer beaters. Like, whoa, this is going great. And then it just stopped.
Fell on its face. Yeah.
There was no size. There was you had to play at such a high level because you were so small, and anything that went wrong, you were screwed. And on top of that, not only do we have our no size, our power forward is one of the lowest rebounding per game power forwards in the league.
Yeah.
So not only are we small, we don't play big. Like Josh Hart played big.
Yeah.
Great rebounder for his size. Grant's the opposite. So we were small and we were playing small. And it just, there was, see, absolutely. I have no issue with people going, well, was this a shadow tank? Look, we didn't have any size. Now, maybe there wasn't a lot to get. They've tried to get size over the years, not so much Cronin, but, they tried with Gasol, they tried with Ezeli. Neither one of them ever played a game. I thought they were poor signings, but that, I guess at least they got their name on a contract. But it was not set up for success. We've been so small for forever. We were already small in the backcourt. Now we're small up front. I will listen to anybody all day that says, well, were we kind of shadow tanking anyhow? Maybe we were, to get to a point to where we could add some pieces, but it wasn't in time. Who knows? We're never going to be privy to those things. All we can go on is based on things we do know. And Cronin did try to add pieces. The price was abysmal.
So on the flip side, then, do you think there's another conspiracy theory angle? Do you think Dame deliberately put us in a corner to where he would need to be traded because he stuck around to sign his Supermax, which he could not have gotten if he was traded 2 years ago or last year? Right. You have to be on a team for, I think, 8 or 9 years to be qualified for that designated extension, and that gives you 35%.
And achieve certain levels, first team,
So do you think he might have stuck around to get that absolute most max contract? And then the timing is kind of sketchy. As soon as he could be traded, because it had to be a year from when that was signed, which was on like the 9th of July last year. And so as soon as that year is up, I'm out. I want out. I want to go to Miami. I'm done. And he's the one that kind of put Joe in this tough spot by laying out these demands, before the draft. He did multiple interviews where he was talking about, where he'd potentially go. I know it was all hypothetical, but it was just kind of, it just was kind of sketchy, and he was not as invested in the draft this year. Like last year, he was there. He was sitting next to Joe. He was sitting next to Chauncey and Bert, and he was watching Shaden, and he was watching the other guys that came in. This year, there was only like one picture of him sitting off by himself, I think at like the the Thompson twin workout. So I'm just curious, like, do you think there's any credence to that conspiracy theory?
It's tough to know what's in a man's mind.
Yeah.
Are there things that point to, well, it could have been? Because remember, this is not the first summer that Dame's gone on the podcast interview circuit. He did this last year.
Yeah.
Henry Abbott got vilified for saying, I think he's going to end up leaving. And I don't remember if he said that summer or eventually or what. And he got torched for that.
Yeah.
But this has been going on for some time. He got his Supermax extension as soon as was legally, it was legally available to do so under the CBA rules. He asked out. Now, whether that's something didn't happen that he wanted, but look at the things that did happen. He wanted Jerami Grant. They went and got Jerami Grant, and then they signed Jerami Grant to a massive. Well, did they sign Jerami Grant?
I know
they offered Jerami Grant a massive contract where he could get that 5th year. That's Dame's guy. He was brought in here for Dame. Nurk is here because kind of he's Dame's guy. I can't imagine any other reason why he would be here.
Yep.
So it's not like, there weren't pieces brought in or pieces kept around that were Dame's guys. That Portland just offered or committed to $160 million to, again, a good scoring, good shooting, solid help defender, terrible rebounding power forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine if Dame's here and we're playing to win, but I don't know what that's going to be now. I can't imagine that if that hasn't been signed, I think you had said that or somebody else has said that, is that being reworked to where it's a sign and trade to somewhere else, or they give him that 5th year and say, "Hey, we'll move you at February."
I don't think he wants that. I mean, the whole point that he waited was because he wanted that 5th year. So unless he's absolutely just does not want to be here, and he's willing to do a sign and trade, like I don't see him being gone. Somebody else suggested maybe they're working on front loading his contract, which would make him more tradable, down the road. I want to talk about Grant in a little bit. I want to kind of close the loop on Dame. Why do you think Dame is going scorched earth? Like, is it because he's that pissed off at the team, or just, I'm going to give you my theory. I think Aaron Goodwin said, "Where do you want to go?" And Dame said, "Well, I want to go to Miami." And Aaron Goodwin said, "I will make that happen," because it seems like they're trying to bully Joe Cronin into doing what they want, because I don't think they respect him. I think they think he's an amateur.
Well, yes. I mean, if you're dealing with, if it's Miami and you're dealing with Pat Riley and Joe Cronin, the gap there is just
huge.
Well, you can't be measured. Here's what I have no idea. When Dame said, when he told Goodwin, "I want to go to Miami," what's Goodwin's choice? Because Goodwin knows their roster. He knows they don't have the pieces to offer. So the only way that deal gets done is if the value through the trade process with who's there and we limit the scope can be artificially depressed. Because if it's an open market, it's not going to be depressed. But you can artificially depress it by saying, well, it's only to Miami, and you do that because you know Miami does not have the pieces to get a deal done for Dame. Goodwin knew that. And whether this was his idea to handle it in this way so that it would force a trade to a team that didn't have the assets and that's the only way it would work, I don't know. Some of the things that Goodwin is being allowed to say or are not, or Dame's being okay with, man, you go back and look at some of the other players just in the last couple of years that have asked for trades. None of them have done it in this manner. This is coming across as pretty hard. I mean, some players that were just the biggest Dame fans I know are just like they're burning jerseys. They're like, I can't believe he would do this.
Yeah.
So who knows why, but that would be a reason why it went down this way, is because Goodwin's like, they don't have it. They cannot provide the assets to Portland that they're going to want. The only way we get you there is we're going to have to depress the market.
Yeah.
And we do that by limiting it, and we do it by coming out and saying, just completely anti-Dame things.
Yeah.
If any other team trades for me, I'm not going to be happy. I'm not reporting.
Yeah.
Dame's not saying that.
And I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second. I don't
believe that either, but they're asking us to believe that Dame would do things that he's never done. He's been the consummate professional, the ultimate pro, and now it's like he just won't show up.
Now he's going to do that? Yeah, I don't buy it.
That's what's being thrown out here. So whether Dame cares or realizes how this is coming across, and maybe he doesn't, but he still has a car dealership here. He says he's going to retire here. He's got his new home here. His family's here. There is what looks like a fairly realistic window that he would be back. And this will smooth out over time. But right now, I've talked to so many people privately, on boards, phone calls, group chats, that were the biggest Dame fans you could possibly imagine. They're like, I'm losing respect every day.
Yeah.
Or it's not, the shine is off the rose. It's not.
It's crazy.
He would ever do this. And so it's a business. It's part of the NBA, but you said it. This is scorched earth as much as anyone has gone, more than Durant did when he wanted to be moved, more than, I can't think of anybody. Harden,
no, this has
Kawhi
been...
Leonard. Now, Kawhi Leonard was sitting out, but he just sat there and kept his mouth shut. He didn't really say anything.
Anthony Davis is probably the closest, because they said that Anthony Davis wanted to go to the Lakers. They said he would not go to the Celtics. Like he would leave after a year. So Anthony Davis is the closest that I can think of, but it's just interesting because I don't know if it's that he didn't think the fans would turn on him, because there's been all of this negative reporting about Joe Cronin and kind of just hammering about how he lied, which who know, I'm not sure where that's coming from for the most part. It kind of feels like he's definitely
for the most part, it comes from that video. You'll have podcasts or radio shows will post up this video of, you'll be amazed when we throw in our chip. Yeah, go to the beginning of that. I will try, or I'm trying, whatever. That word is used. It's not a guarantee. I'm going to try to do this, and when I get something I think works, you'll be shocked at how much we throw in. Maybe even an overpay. Okay, sounds good. Did he think he could do more than he could? I believe so. But he still said try. It's hard to argue with. It's hard to say someone lied when they say try.
Yeah. Well,
because I know there are examples of where he did try, which means now it's not a lie.
I just don't know. Okay, so here's my question then. So looking at what I almost wonder if right now Miami's trying to lowball us, not even pushing all their chips in, because we just haven't really heard any substantial rumors about the Blazers and Miami having conversations. There's been reports that they're not having substantial conversations. So it's are they just trying to offer the 28 and 30 picks and Hero and Robinson and saying take it or leave it? It's
well, there's only so much they can't. Right now, 28 and 30 is all they can offer. Now they can get a third one by taking off some protection to an OKC pick.
Yeah.
There's cap guys that know that stuff way better than I do, but so they could free up a third pick to make the money work. I right now, it's from what I've heard is it's Goodwin that's doing a lot of legwork around the league.
I've heard that too.
Trying to get other teams involved, because right now they know that Portland and Miami, there's not much to have a discussion on because there's not enough there.
Yeah.
And everyone around the league knows it. The only team that thinks they have enough is Miami. We should just give you Duncan Robinson. In fact, maybe you should give us a pick back. He scored in double digits once. And I get that they're huge fans. I get it. But 29 other teams, if you listen to podcasts or media or whatever, and they're like, well, Miami doesn't have enough. There's gonna have to be something else. Turn it around.
Mm-hmm.
If we offered Ant and some contracts and some garbage future first for Jimmy Butler, what would they think?
They'd laugh at us. Well, and
they just go, what do you do? You just stop.
It's funny though, because even I watched a few of their summer league games because I was really curious about Jaime Jaquez and Jovic, and neither one of those guys is really the kind of prospect that we're hoping for. Jaquez is maybe a good role player, maybe, and he's he's old. So he's like 23. So he is what he is. He is what he is though. He's not going to be, he's not going to be a star. And Jovic, I watched him a bit. He's got a nice outside shot.
Jovic is intriguing because he does have some offensive skills. He can pass the ball. He can create a little bit. He's a good shooter.
But he's quick. Jerami Grant, though. He's Jerami Grant, but without the defense.
He's not as athletic or as quick as Jerami Grant, and he has no defense.
He's a stretch four. He doesn't play in the paint. I watched him. He's out on the perimeter the whole time, and it's just, I don't see how that fits.
His defense, if you got into a playoff series and a good coach was on the other side,
he'd get exposed.
They're scheming him right off the court.
Yeah.
So his footwork isn't great. He doesn't have a lot of explosiveness. Not that there's some good things to his game, but that's not that potential young talent. As far as anyone that they have, Jaquez could be a solid microwave type guy. He's bigger, obviously. Off the bench, gets hot once in a while, do some good things. I'm not positive. Orlando Robinson might not be their best.
Yeah, we can't, and he's not going to be tradable because they just signed him. So
right, and you can't get him for a while. So
yeah,
you're there's not a lot of great. The picks aren't good. The young players aren't good. And Tyler Hero for what he does. There's some things he does well. It's not that Tyler Hero is not a good player.
He just doesn't fit
Tyler Hero
at
can
all.
do something. It's just we already have Tyler Hero.
Yeah.
We have a more athletic Tyler Hero
on a cheaper contract.
On a cheaper contract.
Yeah.
So it doesn't fit. So they're going to have to go get something else for him somewhere else with somebody who values him. And this has been my question, if he is so great of a player, such a good piece, why don't 28 other teams just go, oh man, we'll take Tyler Hero here. Here's some stuff for him.
Yep.
I don't hear
Nobody wants him. Well, it's the same reason why we couldn't move Simons. We've been trying to move Simons for months and nobody wants him. And it's just if Simons doesn't have value on a cheaper contract and he's more athletic, what value does Hero have on a more expensive contract? I mean, he's taller. He's like 6'5", and Simons is like 6'3". So, but Simons, I think, has a much longer wingspan, which a lot of that's a significant thing. So what do you think? I mean, I kind of go back and forth on this because Lillard is a top 10 player. He's one of the best scorers in the league, but he's a week from being 33. He's on a massive contract, and he's a score first, no defense, 6'3" point guard. So, I mean, how much value do you really think he has? That's the problem.
To a team that's knocking on the door, a lot.
Yeah.
Dame is absolutely a type of player because he's the perfect player for Miami.
Yeah.
He stretches the floor.
Yep. They can cover his fridge defense. Yeah.
You've got guys that cover for him defensively. He's clutch. He's going to be the guy with the ball in his hand at the end of the game. He's going to make free throws. He's going to knock down free throws if he gets fouled. He's a clutch shooter. He's going to space the floor. Butler and Adebayo are going to have better opportunities because of him. Miami's almost a perfect place for him. Boston could be a really good place for him as well.
Yeah.
Philly would probably be good too. Not quite as good. Depends on what they had to trade out.
Boston's my dream. Boston's my dream. Well, I mean, okay, there's better dreams. I just don't think they're viable at all. San Antonio, Utah would be perfect. That's not going to happen, right?
Utah and Brooklyn have the picks. If you're after picks, that's the place you would want him traded.
Yeah.
Because picks aren't the same too. I mean, if I'm getting a pick from Utah that's one of the Minnesota picks, I'll take one of those over 2 picks from Miami that are 6 years and 8 years in the distance or whatever, and likely not to be very good picks. Miami's a very well-run organization.
Yeah. They're never bad.
Being a very good pick or pretty small every once in a while, but it's pretty rare. So I'll take 1 pick from Utah over 2 picks from Miami. I'll take maybe one of Brooklyn's picks over 2, or add that or whatever. But to Miami, back to your question, he fits perfect for Miami.
Yeah.
So now that they're a favorite going into next year if Dame's on that team. Dame, Butler, Adebayo, the rest.
But do they have the bench though? Because that's the problem. They've let a lot of their guys walk. I think that's the other thing that's kind of sketchy. They've been building towards adding Dame for weeks. Even though Dame hadn't asked out, there's been some really shady stuff going on for the past few weeks.
Well, but they knew all of this stuff. He came out and had talked. Listen, some people will say, well, he didn't mean anything by it. He was asked a question. Dame is incredibly smart.
Yeah.
When it comes to media, when it comes to interaction socially, his cryptic tweets, Dame is one of the smartest players in the NBA when it comes to that. He knows when he says something, he knows what's going to happen. He knows how people are going to react to it. He knows it might start up a stream of questions or create a firestorm or whatever. He's not done with that. And he didn't have to answer questions. He could have said, like in years past, hey, I'm not talking about that. I appreciate the question, but I'm here and this is what's going on and we're not talking about where I might go. That's not what he chose to do this time. And he knew what would happen as soon as he named those off. And he kept doing it. It was an interview marathon parade this summer. time after time after time.
He was putting himself out there. Yeah.
He was putting himself out there, and he did that last summer. And so this has been, people knew. There's no way, Pat Riley's maybe the best GM in the business right now. He knew, he's aware, the agents can talk all they want. This didn't just come out of the blue. It was like, oh, I think I'll go to Miami. Oh, really? You'd like to come here? Well, let us think about that. What should we do? They've been, like you said, they've been putting things in place for a while now because he fits them so perfectly. He fits their timeline. He fits their roster in terms of what they were missing last year. It's a no-brainer. But you have to. You're going to add someone like that that's making you a favorite to win a title, to win a ring. That's going to cost.
Yep. Well, Jimmy's old too. They've got a short window. Their window matches Dame's window like almost perfectly.
Yes, it does.
So we're at like 50 minutes right now, and we've done what we said we didn't want to do, which is talk about Dame for like most of the show. I had two other topics I really wanted to touch on, and they're kind of connected in a way. Matisse Thybulle and Jerami Grant. I want to talk about Thybulle first because Thybulle is actually signed to the team. I know that some people, like a lot of fans, were just like, match him, do it, match him. It's a good contract, match him. I've seen other people be like, oh, this is not a good fit. We already have guards, blah, 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 blah. You and I were talking about this, I think, off camera, but our team is so young and our best players are very, very young. And Thybulle is what, 26? And
yeah, something like that.
And he's a defender. I mean, he was second team all defense twice, I think is what I'd heard. And from what I've heard from like Sean Hyken and other people that have been around the team, he's just a very cerebral guy. He's always has a book in his hands. Like he's just a very intelligent, very personable dude. The way I look at it, does he fit our timeline? Probably not. But with Dame leaving, we have got to have veterans in the locker room, guys that are good, high character, that are good defenders, that are not going to cause a lot of drama. And he seems like the perfect fit for that. And I'm just like, it wasn't that much money.
No.
I think
it's a very tradable contract.
Yeah, that too. Well, the kicker kind of sucks, but yeah.
It's still a very easily tradable contract. It starts at 9.95 and goes up, and I think the last year might even be a player option, so it's a two-year contract. You have to have those contracts now to make trades. That's one of the problems with Portland in trying to trade for anything. They only had 6 guys under contract at the end of the year. Guys that they could actually trade. And a couple of those were guys you weren't going to trade. One of them was Dame. So if you're building around Dame and you have 6 contracts, you really only have 5 tradable contracts.
But no cap space either. No cap space and no contracts. Yeah.
Right. So you can't make an unbalanced trade. You got Ant, Nurk, Little.
Keon has a small contract.
Yeah, Keon's was really small. Watford's they let go. They could have kept, they could have guaranteed that. So there was no contracts to trade, and there was nothing kind of in the middle other than Nurk. Ant's 25, Dame's 40, Nurk's 17-ish, whatever. Little's clear down at like 6, 7. You had nothing. So Matisse is perfect. It's that middle contract that helps make trades go. He's young enough. He plays defense, which teams always need. I mean, look at that. Philadelphia traded Matisse, let him go, and kept Jalen or Jaden McDaniels.
Jalen. I think it's Jalen McDaniels. Yeah,
kept him, and then he walked and went and signed for $9 million for 2 years, $4.5 million a year.
Yep.
So you can say Portland actually got the better player of those two, signed him for more money. He's a tradable contract, and to your point, you have to have that veteran presence in the locker room. There has to be someone that helps guide some of these guys a little bit. That's why I'm so glad that Scoot's on board with the Steph wagon, whatever he's doing with that. But Matisse also does something. He plays defense, and that there's nothing more that helps a young guy because they don't know how to play defense in the NBA.
Gotta have that. You gotta have people that set a good example, right? Because you look at Houston, who's been this very, very young team. If you just go full young, who sets the tone? And that's why I'm very excited about Scoot, because I think Scoot is a guy that is going to set the tone, but he's so young, and that's why I don't want Nurk. I don't want Nurk to stay around at all, because number one, he's been tweeting out and he's been saying all these things about how he wants to go too with Dame and all that stuff. I just, he's been known as a moper. He pouts. He's doesn't always give it his all. And I just, he's on paper, he's a good player when he's healthy. But
the ideal of the Bosnian Beast is tremendous. In reality, it's not really what we get very often.
Yeah, it's kind of not as bad as Zion, but they kind of share the same issue, where when they play to their full potential, they're great, but when they're injured or when they don't play their full potential, they're kind of just a ghost. So Jerami Grant, then, because same kind of principle. I was fine with re-signing him. Because number one, I don't think we can afford to let any assets just walk for nothing. Whether that's Thybulle or that's Grant, those are guys that still carry value around the league. We can't afford to let guys just walk. Can't.
Well, and he had, again, you talk about leverage. He had leverage. He's like, you have to bring me back to try and keep Dame.
Yeah. So
and they signed him, and the very next day, Dame. It's the next day.
Yep.
Like, yeah,
I'm leaving. Yeah.
You're gonna have to trade me to South Beach. Like, well, okay, we just offered way too much money for this guy to keep him. Now, they may have had an agreement regarding that already, because he sat out last year, kind of like Nurk the year before. Hey, you sit out. We know you're losing, some. Normally you want to play really well up to that contract, but we'll guarantee you this or whatever. Handshake, wink, wink. Fine. 162 million.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
I get the thing. The cap's going up, and some people will get flack for back to Dame a little bit, but just to make a point about Grant's contract, people say, well, it's $63 million, and some people are like, you have to forget the number. It's a percentage of the cap. It's like, yes, that's true. As it goes up, the cap goes up, but the player is declining.
Yep.
There's not all players getting better at 34, 35, 36. They're declining.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dame may decline slowly. Don't know. Who knows what's going to happen with him? But historically, you don't get better unless you're Barry Bonds with some help. You don't get better at that age.
Yep.
So that it's more about the declining production for what you're getting versus the amount of money. I mean, it's hard to grasp that $63 million number. It will be a percentage of the cap. It's not that. It's what you would be getting out of it. Grant's going to be the same thing. It's like that's going to be, as the salary cap goes up, maybe that number looks a little better, but it still seems like it's a lot for 4.2 rebounds a game.
There's people have speculated about maybe they're trying, because he hasn't signed it, and it's been, he could have signed it, Thursday was the first day that they could finish, complete deals. So it's been 4 days and he has not signed it. So there's been speculation that maybe they're trying to like rework it so that it's front loaded or something like that. I mean, I guess I could see a scenario where he's just like, I don't want to come back without Dame, but it's just kind of weird.
So what I don't understand about that is Dallas made the offer. The Blazers have 24 plus hours, depending on when Dallas turned in the paperwork, up till noon the following day to match. So they've agreed in principle to match, but they haven't signed the deal. Excuse me. That's Matisse. Sorry.
Yeah, that's Matisse. Yeah.
That's Matisse. But Grant, if it's not signed, if they were going to do a sign and trade, they can't do the 5th year and the raises go down. It's 5% instead of 8%.
He won't get as much money, yeah.
So he would have to agree to that. And I don't know if the players union, I don't know how that would work, because they really frown on give backsies on, well, okay, we're not going to take as much money.
Yeah.
They don't like that because it sets a bad precedent for future signings. So I don't know why that. You would think that maybe something else is afoot, but I don't know what that would be or how they would do that, because if it is a sign and trade, it will be for less money.
Well, so here's a question then, and this is an angle I haven't really explored at all. Is it possible that they're thinking they're going to be able to move Dame's contract without taking anything back, like equal parts, getting a TPE or something, and then have enough room to absorb something else? Because it's like, why would they delay signing? Because whenever they sign him, that's going to be bird money. It's going to be, it doesn't matter. So it's like, are they trying to like time it out?
Trade Dame without taking anything back?
Yeah, like, are they trying to create space to like either absorb more money and then go over the cap? Or I mean, I can't.
But I don't know how they would do that. I mean, if it was Miami, that doesn't work because they're both over the cap. So, and in fact, Miami is even a little restricted on what they do. If you start including other players, they get up to an apron level.
Who still has money though? San Antonio has a little bit, not enough to really absorb a full.
A lot of the teams that had cap space used it up.
Yeah, Houston
took on some players for assets. That happens every year. It's like, hey, we'll take your crappy contract because we have cap space. You get a trade exception. You give us 2 seconds and whatever, and they call it good. And most of those teams have used a large portion of that up. I don't think it would be possible to do that now with Dame.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's very weird. I'm hoping we hear something in the next couple days, because it's very bizarre that he has not been signed.
In Grant's case, it's the only unless he agreed to that, and then when Dame asked out, he's like, well, now wait a minute. My whole thing of coming here was to be with Dame, and when I'm signing, I'm thinking I'm playing with Dame, and now if I'm not, maybe I'm willing to go back on that. It would have to be his request. The team,
they won't do it. Yeah, they won't do it.
It would have to be his request, and then what the players' union thinks about that, I don't know. But if he said, okay, can I be asked out of that contract, and then if Portland decided, or I can't imagine it wouldn't be some type of sign and trade, because they're like, well, we're not going to lose you for nothing. We'll agree to this if we get something back. But it is interesting that the numbers were announced, the Woj tweets or whoever announced it came out, and that there's still apparently not a signature on a contract.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. But I will just say, I was not against bringing him back for kind of the same reason that I feel about Thybulle. I think having veterans on the team is important. I don't look at him the same. He's kind of a quiet dude. I don't really haven't very much context about what he's like in the locker room, but I think, he does try to play defense. I think he would actually play really well with Scoot. So I'm not against having him. I think he would do well with. He's a little bit older than LaMarcus was when Dame was drafted. I think LaMarcus was like 27 and Grant's 29. And so it's like, but I think having a good player who's a veteran to play with Scoot and Sharp is going to be really important. So I wasn't against it. I know it's a little bit too much money, but we would never have been able to sign him outright. If he had just been a straight up free agent, I don't think there's any way in hell we ever would have been able to sign him. So,
No. And you're right. There does have to be a veteran presence. For as mature as Scoot is, you still want someone around that, the Juwan Howard type towards the end of his career, to bring these younger guys just to the realities of the NBA, the do's, the don'ts, what you're going to get caught up with. Now, supposedly, Ignite does some of that for them. Scoot's talked about some of the different things he was ready for and things they prep for, and maybe he's more ready than most, but he's still, he'll be 20 maybe when the season starts. It's a young man, and there's obstacles he's going to have to overcome no matter how good he is. And you like having veterans, even if it's for part. If they sign Grant and then like, okay, we understand maybe this isn't what you planned on. We'll make every effort to get you moved. Have your agent start looking so that we can find a team for you by February. Maybe that's what they do.
And that's fine. And I think that's fair. But, like I said earlier with Thybulle, I don't want to lose assets for nothing. Even if it's just a first round pick, just get something back for him. Because letting him walk out the door and not bringing anything back is just, we can't afford to do that. We learned that the hard way from LaMarcus and Rolo and Wes. And it's just, we can't afford it. We can't afford to have, we're Portland. We can't afford to have, especially, valuable assets. Can just have him walking out the door.
Well, and so, Dallas offered him the contract. We matched it. Could he, however they worked it out to where maybe he still went to Dallas.
Take a year.
At some point. Well, that's the thing is if Portland matched it and I don't think you can sign and trade a matched contract. So he's kind of stuck. You can't go to Dallas.
No, I think not after I think you can if it hasn't been signed. If it's been signed, then there's nothing you can do. So, like, if they say...
It's interesting that Dallas still hasn't signed. He's one of the last ones not signed. Their first-round pick. I don't believe Lively.
Yeah, neither is Brooklyn. Brooklyn has not signed either one of their first-round picks yet. At least that's the last I'd heard in the last day or so. But Clowney and... Is it Whitehead? I can't remember.
Whitehead.
Yeah, they have not been signed yet, which is really weird. And it's just the Brooklyn thing is bizarre because really that should be the perfect fit. It's got one of Dame's guys that he wanted so badly. Mikal Bridges. Brooklyn's going to have a lot easier time bringing in free agents, and so it seems like it's a good fit. On paper.
That's one of the things that is kind of a collateral thing for Brooklyn. If Dame's there with Bridges, free agents are going to go there.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to retool really quickly. Not this year because the free agents are gone.
Yeah, but next year.
A trade or so here then at the trade deadline, and next year when the free agent pool is better. It was terrible this year. I can see guys wanting to be part of that.
Yep. But I don't know. Well, so we are now at almost an hour and 10 minutes. I think this is probably a good place to stop for today. I think we got through everything I wanted to get through. So the second game of Summer League is tonight, I think at 5 Pacific time.
Wembanyama. That's lost some luster.
Yeah, not as excited. But we still have Shaden, unless they shut him down. But Shaden versus Wemby. I really want to see him put Wemby on a poster. I want to see. I can't believe he blew that windmill. That was so unlike Shaden to blow a wide open windmill.
Well, it was, but if you watch him in that game, he would look like he was just woken up from a nap.
Oh, he was coasting. He was just coasting.
Very, very end.
Yeah.
And then he got the one dunk, and that seemed to wake him up. But up until that point, when he missed it, I was like, how do you miss that? You're wide open. But I'm like, well, you've kind of been sleepwalking through the first 3 quarters, so I get it.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe he'll rise up for the Wemby challenge. But I really appreciate you coming on, Larry. It's been a lot of fun talking to you. It's been, we go back a long ways. It's always fun to get a chance to chat.
Well, and I'm glad you're getting back into this a little bit. I know you haven't done it, this type of thing for a while, but it's, you obviously have that vein a little bit about you. So, have fun with it.
It was hard with so much going on this summer to not offer something up because it was, there's just so much going on with Dame and Scoot and everything else. It's such a pivotal time for the Blazers, and so it's hard not to share.
There will be, I think, a sigh of relief when this is done, and just like, okay, there, we're done.
Turn the page.
Closure. We can go through all our 5-7 steps of whatever, and move on and go, okay, because it's almost like we can't celebrate the good young players that we have.
Yep.
Scoot and Shaden. I mean, if Scoot and Shaden are in New York or Boston or whatever, they're on the cover of
everything. Yeah. It's
people are going, oh my gosh, these two, are you kidding me? And we have Dame hangover. We can't be excited about the next ones yet. And so I would, for that purpose, I would like it to be over so we can
turn the
get
page.
excited about.
Next
Listen,
thing.
we actually got some good young pieces here. As always, we still need some height, but
Yep. This team is so bad at reading the room and recognizing when it's time to do something, because it's like they should have moved LaMarcus before he left. They should have traded CJ like 3 years earlier than they did. I mean, the Pelican series, that was it. That should have been it. That was like, nope, time to end this. And now we're probably about 2 years past when we should have traded Dame, because I love the guy, but was never really going to happen at this point to build a championship around him. So I'm ready.
I know we need to wrap this up. Or if you're going to make the moves that Dame wanted to make now, they should have been done
years ago,
2 or 3 years ago, so that you have a time for it to build a little bit. Now it would have been like a rush, like, oh, we got to do this, because
which is not possible.
It's not possible. Do it before. Trade some picks while you still have Dame. Now, if we were trading picks to get someone in, Dame might not be here. We're going to be bad, and someone else is going to own those picks. It's like, oh crap.
Yep. All right. Well, Larry, we'll definitely have to do this again. I've had a lot of fun, so we'll do this again soon. I'm hoping we're gonna have some news. Honestly, this Dame thing could drag out for months. If they don't get what they want, it could be August. I'm hoping it does not go into training camp, because the worst thing would be asking Scoot, oh, what's going to happen? What do you think, Dame? All that. I want this to be over before training camp at the very, very latest.
It's not fair to him. It's not fair to Dame or the team he's going to join. I agree. But I appreciate you having me on. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do it again.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Larry. And go Blazers.